Dusty.
Blue poncho.
Tupac.
Street.
Hey, Wilson Hoosier. Hey, Elvis.
Blue 58.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Predictors. We've got a really cool podcast for you here today. This is going to really recap a little bit of the end of the season, but guess what? Everyone's on to 2024, 2025 NFL season. Let's go. And we got a lot of information. We got a lot of stuff coming out with the NFL Combine just finishing up and free agency that just started this week. So let's take it away, Brandon. What do we got?
Yeah, we're going to start off today with the Combine recap, a little bit of insight into what goes on at the Combine. Doc, you know all the teams are there. Every team brings a doctor, right? And you'll do a bunch of evals. Kind of give us a little quick insight into what that looks like.
Yeah, Brandon, it's not just one doctor, but really a fleet of medical professionals that descend on the NFL Combine. It's really quite an impressive and well-orchestrated medical health performance event, if you will. So basically what happens is the Combine rooms, or the medical rooms, as you call them, are divided into about 5 or 6 teams each. So there's not 32 teams in one room or 32 medicals in one room, but you got about 5 or 6 other teams that are with you. And you've got your athletic trainer, your head athletic trainer, usually assistant head athletic trainer. You got your physical therapist, and then you have numerous physicians and, a variety of specialties, not just orthopedic sports medicine, but we've got foot and ankle specialists. We got hip specialists. We got upper extremity specialists, spine specialists. And on top of that, we've got a whole medical crew looking at players' hearts and cardiovascular function and a bunch of other things on top of a bunch of screenings just for performance and body mass composition and a bunch of other things. So it's an extremely well-orchestrated event. It's very thorough. A lot of it's really meant to have safety involved and make sure the players are really good to go to the next level. And there are certain things that are picked up every year at the Combine that were not detected in college for whatever reason from a safety standpoint. But it can also give, what comes out of it is a health grade. And that health grade is really assigned to every player. It's unique to every team based on what the team culture is, what the team flavor is, the team medical. And so every team is a little bit different in their team grades of individual players, but it's also really meant all as a safety first type of event.
Gotcha. Yeah. It sounds like a pretty intense process. Tyler, one thing that came up over the Combine, Caleb Williams, the high-profile quarterback, he sat out of the medical. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting, Brandon. These guys, it seems every year are starting to do less and less, or choosing what they want to do, and obviously that's their choice. I think it can speak some volumes to teams. Teams are going to wonder why. Teams are going to want to know exactly what's going on in the medical process. I mean, this is what we base everything on, right? Is health matters. And if you're skipping out on medical, is there a specific reason that you're doing that? I think everyone knows that Caleb Williams is going to go first in the draft. That's pretty much a given at this point, it seems. But the fact that he would sit out, maybe it's just, hey, I don't want to have to deal with that. We all know where I'm going. But it does definitely raise some questions, I think. And if I'm getting him on my team, I'm wondering why.
Ty, let's just say theoretically, he's, going to go number 1 pick, whatever. But say theoretically, this person who opted out of the Combine medical, which, I certainly, I sort of get, but I don't endorse at all. There's a lot of important information that comes out of that at the end of the day, and you're going to get it anyway. If he has to go to 5 or 6 different teams, or this person in the future that opts out, I'm just telling you, you're going to go to 6 other teams and you're going to get all the same exams and all the same stuff before that team hires you. It's just part of the process. And so do it once, or do you want to do it 6 times? That's one of the issues the NFL and the teams and these players that opt out of the medical portion are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the Combine was interesting this year. I didn't watch too much of it. A lot of guys sat out. Some exciting numbers, but from the overall health matters side, there wasn't any really big injury things. So Tyler, let's move on now. Let's talk about some free agency cuts and moves. Some of the major free agency stuff. What was your biggest one
Oh,
on free agency day,
man,
Tyler?
I am excited to talk about this one. All right. Kirk Cousins, guys, signed deal 180 million with I think it was like 100 million guaranteed. This is a 36-year-old quarterback coming off of an Achilles tear last year. Yes, I know what he did for the Vikings, but when you look at his overall seasons, put everything. I think he's won one playoff game, and he just signed a contract for $180 million. Everyone had him as the number one free agent, which, all right, maybe. But to me, at 36, coming off an Achilles tear, I know he's a quarterback, but to have only won one playoff game, I don't know how you can overspend that much. That seems aggressive to me, but that's just me. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this one.
General manager Tyler's not buying this one, huh?
No way.
36 with an Achilles. I mean, there's something to be said about that medically. I mean, obviously the Achilles it's a big injury to come off. There's no way this happens. I hate to say it, for a running back, for a 35, 36-year-old cornerback, just a much different explosive position. So positional things matter. Quarterback's super valuable. We saw last year, and you can look back at all of our podcasts in terms of how many quarterbacks were banged up, not the least of which was Kirk Cousins, and we had to deal with this. It's a huge problem in the NFL that these quarterbacks are getting banged up because they're so valuable to the team. So GM Tyler ain't buying it.
Yeah, no, Tyler, another one you've been hard on all year too is our boy Saquon Barkley, and he got a pretty good deal with the Eagles coming off that chronic ankle injury season. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, this one I'm not as upset with, and here's why. I think that Saquon had a hard time at the Giants. If you remember back when Christian McCaffrey was at the Panthers, he got overused. He was hurt a lot, had a lot of different injuries, sat out a lot, but he was their offense, right? They overused him. And we talk a lot about that on this show, overuse, chronic injuries. And I think Saquon kind of had the same thing going on at the Giants. They never really had a great passing game. Quarterback is kind of average. And so Saquon kind of had to, hold that team on his shoulders a little bit. Now you bring him over to the Eagles, where he's got Jalen Hurts, who can do it through the air or on the ground himself. You have AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith. You have these other pieces of the puzzle where I don't think he will have to, take that load on as much. And I think I'm not saying he's Christian McCaffrey and is going to be coming out of the backfield doing all the things he does, but I think you can spread the ball out, and I think that will help him. I think it's a great place for him, to be honest.
All right, all those free agency moves Tyler's talking about. Ryan, tell us about one you have.
Yeah, the one I've been looking at is C.J. Gardner-Johnson returning to the Eagles. He had a pec injury last year. They did non-op management, and he was able to come back for the playoffs, although he was on IR for a while. Doc, do you think this is something that he will have to be addressed this offseason with surgery, or do you think they're going to continue with the non-op management here?
Yeah, I think he was able to get back last year. This is a non-op pec type tear. There are a few non-operative pec tears. I'm a little bit biased in that surgery of the pec after you strain it, just depends on where you strain it, but surgery after a pec tear usually results in a very good, very predictable outcome. We're just going to have to see how he does. But there's a number of players out there that have had pec strains that did not have surgery and performed at a very high level. We know that for a fact on many of these pec tears that I've nursed along on some players that some just don't need surgery and they don't want surgery, and that's acceptable.
Yeah, so looking at another free agency, my big free agency splash was Eric Armstead. He played through that torn meniscus all year and gets released at the end of the year. A lot of people are unhappy about that. Let's talk about that one for a little bit.
Yeah, so Armstead, like you said, meniscus. He ended up getting meniscus surgery at the end of the season. So he is going to now rehab off of that. I believe he should be back for training camp. It seems like this is in his right knee, and going through that rehab this whole offseason. Should be back with the team, with his team for training camp. Doc, you've done a million different meniscus tears and meniscus surgeries. What are your thoughts on this? How do these guys usually come back? How have you seen them come back on the NFL stage?
Yeah, and generally they come back really well. I mean, Armstead's been around the league a long time. He knows how to rehab. He's got knows how to manage his load, to manage his knee. And the reality is, sometimes after meniscus surgery, guess what also goes with it? You tear the meniscus here, which is this structure right in here, and it's a nice cushion of the knee. It also provides nutrition, lubrication, knee function. But if that tears and you lose a little bit of that substance and it can't be repaired, then what starts to happen is the cartilage starts to degrade. And that's what we have to watch with him is there's going to be probably a slow degradation process of cartilage. We'll have to have his load managed most likely from the team. And we're going to have to watch him pretty closely to see how he does in practice reports, because there may be some load management and he may miss some games just based on how this does. In general, does really well for a few years, but it does catch up with you.
Yeah, he's got to get a job
That's
first
true.
at this point.
That's
So
true.
we'll see how that rolls along. So speaking of off-season injuries, Doc, what do players do? Do they go to their team doctors? Do they seek out specialists? What's the common trend? And what are you thinking? Should they find a guy they're comfortable with? Should they stay in the team house?
Yeah, Brandon, great question. When I was with the Patriots, about half of the players got treatment outside. About half, stayed with us at Mass General and Harvard and the Patriots, where we took care of them. It really varies team to team. It varies by player to player. A lot of players, as part of the collective bargaining agreement, the CBA, they're entitled to a second opinion. And the second opinion is the responsibility of the team to make sure they get it if they want it, to fund it, to get them to exam in person with their physician of choice, or a lot of times their agent's physician of choice, or otherwise, or they might have a relationship from college with one of their physicians. So it's highly variable, Brandon. It's different for every team. It's different in terms of how the players and the teams manage it. But a lot of players get additional opinions outside of their team. And it's not that the team's not doing a really good job of the medical. It's just that they want another opinion outside of the team just to make sure that this is the best medical course for them.
Yeah. Tyler, give me your opinion on, would you want a guy to stay in and rehab with you, or be out all summer and all off-season rehab and then just show up?
Well,
How would you feel about that, GM Tyler over there?
GM Tyler, I love it. Well, I would love obviously to be the one involved in the rehab. You want to see these players progress. You want to know how they're doing. You want to be able to give these updates. And as an athletic trainer, as you know, Brandon, it's important for us to kind of lead them through that whole process. I don't think either one of us think we know everything, but we do know what we're looking for and how we want these guys to progress through that recovery. So I would want, to be able to do the rehab myself in house. Now, with that said, as going back to my intern days at the Pats, it was kind of nice when they went other places, so I didn't have to drive them up through the Boston traffic to get to Doc. But that's neither here nor there. So
Yeah, definitely. I always thought it was interesting as well, because they would go off to these rehab guru guys, and then who knows what they're doing. So that's always my concern.
Yeah, I feel like I've noticed a trend recently where a lot of these players are going to outside facilities for the off-season rehab rather than staying in-house, and just increasingly becoming more and more common to go outside.
Yeah, no question. Well, what about this? What about Mike Williams? I mean, here's a guy that's had an incredible career, huge production when he's on and not injured. But you got ACL, you got a back injury, a back fracture, high ankle, all kinds of stuff. Brandon got quite a bit of cap space. How do you manage cap space versus what this player's like, and injuries and future predictions? It's what we do. We predict. The predictors predict how Mike Williams is going to do, and GM should use our stuff.
He's got a 1-year non-guaranteed contract coming up, is what it looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are you, Tyler? GM, come on now. Tell us some more about off-season moves. What are you thinking? Everyone's been getting dropped.
Yeah, it's
awesome. All right. Let's go. What do we got, dude? Mike Williams, your guy.
I mean, the Patriots need someone. I wouldn't mind them picking Mike Williams up, but I mean, there's definitely plenty of other guys. They haven't really spent much this offseason. They had $100 million, number one, I think, top 3 in cap space coming into this offseason. we really need to spend big on some good receivers. We've got Jacoby Brissett. I don't know if we're going to draft a quarterback,
We
but
got Jaden Daniels coming in. They'll be ready to go.
if Marvin Harrison's on the board and the Patriots don't draft him, I'm going to be pretty upset about that.
We got 4 quarterbacks going first, so I think it's going to be a fun draft for sure.
It'll be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. It's the highest draft pick I've seen in my lifetime for the Patriots. So
all right, so everyone, you read all the news, all the things that comes out. They had that big player survey come out with all the rankings of the team's training rooms, strength staffs, lunch rooms being no good. So we wanted to break down some of that. So Boston Ryan's got us a breakdown of the bus scores versus the training room and strength coaching staffs and how they performed last year.
Yeah, so we have the Jaguars who finish at the top of the bus rankings. They finish with a B+ for both their training staff and their strength coach. And on top of that, their head athletic trainer, Jeff Ferguson, my godfather, Brandon, you worked with him at the Niners for a little bit. Want to give a big shout out to him and congrats to Jeff for winning the Fane K Memorial Award for Athletic Trainer of the Year. And he definitely deserved it, bringing his team number 1 in the health rankings.
Ooh, yeah, Ferg, nice job, man. That's awesome. It's good to know you, my friend, and well deserved. But look what you did for this team and your team of high-end medical staff and professionals. Congratulations. Not easy to get 2 B+. The players are a little bit unforgiving in some of these grades, and whether it's the food, the team travel, the plane, the hotels, or coaching. It's really interesting what the NFL Players Association does, and I think it's important. It's another nice step of the accountability ladder, as we say, to keep teams accountable and to elevate their product for taking care of their most important commodity, which is the player.
Definitely. Tyler, one thing I noticed on the trend, the top 7 teams all had, in the bus score rankings, all had A or B training room and strength staffs. How does that correlate for you?
Yeah, I think we've talked a little bit about this. There is being an athletic trainer, you always hear, hey, are you going to get along with the strength staff, right? Everyone's worried about the strength staff. Everyone's worried about the athletic training rooms. And there's a reason for that, right? You guys have to get along to be able to give the athletes the best care that is possible, right? You have to work together. The strength staff is trying to do the best they can to get these guys strong, to get these guys fast, to do the things that they need to do on the field. But we've talked about that. When you do that, there also needs to be a balance, and you need to be able to balance that with flexibility. You need to be able to balance that with recovery. You need to be able to balance that with sleep and all the other things that the training room is worried about, and rehab and things like that, and guys who get injured. So when you can see that you have teams that are getting good scores on both of them, you expect those teams to do better, and I think that shows a lot. What was interesting is the Chiefs training staff, I think, got an F, if I'm correct, and that is
Big old red F.
that is
They got an F, and their strength staff wasn't much better, only a C+.
yeah, and that is very surprising, especially after we've seen the stuff come out about the training staff and certain people on that training staff helping Mahomes through his ankle injuries and stuff, and how much he praised them. So very interesting to see there. But to answer your question, Brandon, I do think there is a very symbiotic relationship you have to have between the strength coach and training room.
Yeah, definitely. I think Taylor Swift graded their training staff, so I think that's why they F. So I think, what's another one that stuck out to you, Doc?
Yeah, it's I don't know how you get an F-, but I mean, an F is bad, but an F-, I mean, what's that? It's it's like negative points. But the Falcons strength staff got an F-. I don't know what's up with that, but the training room staff an A-. So there's probably a reasonable balance out there in terms of player longevity, health, human performance. When you look at the two main areas where players are spending a lot of time, not just in, besides the coaches and the quarterback room and the linebackers room and everything else, it's with their strength conditioning team and it's with their training staff team. So it matters at the end of the day. And, I'm sure the Falcons are going to take a close look at that. I'll be interested to dissect that, why that is, because that's just such an outlier among everything else.
Well, they better take a look at that, because they have 36-year-old Kirk Cousins coming in with an Achilles tear. So they better take a big look at that.
They can't be pushing his Achilles too much.
He won't be in the weight room, so that'll be okay. On the flip side, we had the Commanders with an A in the strength staff and an F in the training staff. So opposite on that end over there. So they must be beating them up and not getting them better over there.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting. I have to see what the teams do with this information. It's actionable data. It's really interesting, especially with players that have been around the league. The survey results are pretty interesting. I think it's a legitimate survey, and then a lot of the players, from my understanding, are doing it. It's not just like 10% of the players filling this out, but
right, yeah,
it's part of their future and trying to elevate the whole game. And I think it's important that the PA helps this whole thing with accountability.
definitely. Look for an article later on this week on that from the predictors.com. Also, Tyler, tell us what we can expect from the Predictors coming up next for draft preview, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we also are looking at betting stuff and futures, NBA now. And then when it comes to football, yeah, we're going to have some draft coverage, draft preview, draft articles, all that different stuff about where players are going, health of teams. So definitely make sure you check out the predictors.com and our socials, especially Twitter, and stay up to date with all of that.
Yeah, everyone. Well, that's a wrap. Really interesting time, with free agency, and we're going to keep you posted. Check us out at thepredictors.com for the most up-to-date information. We're going to keep you up to date and keep you in the game as we head to the 2024-25 NFL season. It's going to be here before we know it, and so let's get ready. And also check out all our new features, including NBA, among other sports and other articles. We'll be back with you soon to recap a bunch of the free agent stuff and then get a draft preview. So thanks for tuning in.
Go!